I think saying someone's like all in, I think everybody understands what that means. I think maybe in a day to day, that's a little bit more complicated to try to figure out what exactly that looks like. Like if you are an elite athlete, like what does all in actually mean for you, minute by minute, kind of going throughout your day, which is ultimately like what people talk about with like, trusting the process and like all those, that kind of language. Um, if you have an athlete and they do go out, for example, or they miss a workout, or all these little decisions that they might make that maybe it wasn't even like a conscious thing, but it doesn't necessarily align with their goals of being top 5 in the world or something,
Mm.
or landing the podium or win the games. um, how do you go about having like a tough conversation with an
Yeah,
athlete in a situation like that?
uh, that's. I mean, I think any coach will tell you, you have to be able to. There are times when tough love comes into play, right? Like there, you have to. Um, there are situations that have happened in the past, with athletes where you see certain things, you see patterns, that aren't aligning with the goals.
Right.
You see where the routines or the habits aren't aligning, um, and at that point in time, I think if you aren't doing your athlete any justice if you don't address them, right? Like if you just keep letting it go, then you're as much responsible as the athlete is, I think.
Mhm.
Now, once you say it, right,
Yeah.
and once you address it, and once you bring it to their attention, obviously then it's on them, to to make those changes. But as a coach, you have to be there to help them. So if the nutrition doesn't look great, or they're not doing, then either you do it or you bring in a nutrition specialist. You bring in someone to hold them accountable, right?
Mm.
um, if there are some issues with sleep, or not getting enough rest, or whatever else, there those are things that are correctable, and those are things that need to be addressed. Ultimately, the athlete has to want it, right? But in the past, when I've addressed those things, or I've seen those things, usually the changes are made, and usually they're and then the progress is immense, and then once the athlete sees that changing those things has now, like, helped them get to the next level, then it doesn't take a lot of convincing
Yeah,
after
they're way
that,
more
right?
likely to listen to you too.
A
Yeah.
100%, yeah. um and you know I think, for instance, right, like, and I'm not going to name names, but we had an athlete here who's unbelievably talented, and and that athlete, in my opinion, um, just wasn't dialed in nutrition wise, right? And there was a workout that we did. I don't remember the specific workout, except that it involves an assault bike, and and they were just smashed, and literally got lapped by the other athletes. And after the workout was over, they came to me, and I was like, listen, I was like, this is what we have to do, and this is what you have to do. And if we don't do it, then this is just going to continue to be a pattern, because you're not eating enough calories, you're not eating high enough quality food, you're not doing this. And they made the change, and it's been unbelievable, and it's been a short time where you know the improvements and the progress seen on a daily basis was enormous. And all it took was, you say it's a small change. I mean, nutrition obviously is huge, but really it wasn't this, mammoth, you know change. It was these, and that's really what it is. It's these small little changes to routines or habits that have these enormous differences. And but that's a great example of something that actually happened. It's a tangible example. Um and and the results have been amazing. And again, like you said, I think it brings you closer as athlete and coach, because you as a coach recognized, and then were willing to do what was necessary to help. And then when the athlete sees the benefit, it's massive.
Yeah, you're like almost creating sort of a fork in the road where it's like either you're going to go closer to your goals and you're going to be more bought in the program, you're going to trust in me more as your coach, or you're going to, choose not to do that. And then that's pretty clear as to like what decision that you're making. And like, I think that's probably what a lot of coaches are afraid of, is that they'll take the other route and go away from you. And you have to realize, if you want to coach like the best in the world, like that's going to happen sometimes. And
Yeah,
in order to get there, like you have to be willing to place that fork in the road for the athlete almost.
you do. And not only that, is it sometimes you just can't worry about somebody's feelings. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's as harsh as it is to say that, like, sometimes you have to say what needs to be said, and you have to be able to make a tough decision sometimes, and it might rub that person the wrong way in the moment, but when they actually have a time to step away and think about it, generally speaking, they understand that you're doing it for their best interests.
Right.
And those conversations sometimes need to be had. And that's part of being a coach, and it's part of coaching elite athletes. It's not always going to be puppy dogs and ice cream, right? Like you got to sometimes, it sometimes gets a little messy. Um, but but at the end of the day, I think that's where that whole background of trust, like that whole basis, right,
Yeah.
of trust comes in. Because you're not being an asshole to be an asshole, right? You're
Right.
you're you might have to be a little bit of an asshole to be able to get them to understand, like, listen, this has got to change, or we got to do this, otherwise we're not going to get here, and this is where you want to be, you know
Yeah.
um so
Yeah.
so
Like
that's
we,
definitely part of it.
yeah, like we had both mutually have the same goal of getting you to be the best athlete that you can be. Like that's what we're trying to do here. And that's where that conversation comes from. So it's a different conversation than if you didn't have that background of trust already built in,
Correct.
for sure.
Yeah.